Finally out, Adamantium claws, ocular blasts, lightning and thunder, frenetic action, X-Men against Sentinels, and the imposing Magneto. XMEN 97 has premiered, and I will now bring a comprehensive analysis with spoilers. Let's do this. XMEN 97 has finally premiered, nearly 30 years after the release of the last episode of the acclaimed animated series. The continuation had its first 2 episodes released on Disney+, and I did an analysis with spoilers of the episodes. If you haven't watched it yet, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, come back here after watching and share your thoughts on this much-anticipated animation return. We can't start the analysis without commenting on the opening of the episodes. It's so cool. The creative team of the series recreated the opening with some alterations, references to characters like Phoenix and Sinister, while keeping the classic soundtrack and undoubtedly the most memorable X-Men theme. Episode 1 begins 1 year after the events of the last episode of the classic series. If you haven't watched the series from the 90s, I made a video about how the last episode was. I'll leave it in the card above for you to check out, along with a recommendation to watch the series in its entirety. A group of extremist mercenaries has kidnapped the young Roberto da Costa, placed a power inhibitor collar around his neck, and taken him to an abandoned warehouse where these extremists create weapons using the same technology as the Sentinels. For those who don't know, Roberto da Costa is the mutant known as Sunspot. Created in 1982 by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod, debuting in the Marvel graphic novel, 4 New Mutants. He was the first Brazilian character from Marvel Comics and a classic member of the New Mutants. Shortly after being taken to the warehouse, they hear thunder and lightning outside, and there she appears. Storm announces her entrance, accompanied by Bishop and Cyclops, who save Roberto and take him to the Xavier Mansion. Pay attention to the moment when Cyclops fires his energy blast, and after the explosion we see the Daily Bugle newspaper with the headline, Mutant Benetton Show, a fashion show. This detail was already shown in the first trailer released. At the mansion, Scott Summers argues with Gambit for missing the rescue. Then Rogue enters the discussion, followed by Morph and Jean Grey, who, as seen in the trailer, is pregnant. Scott tries to lead the team after the professor's death but faces challenges. While he feels that as the oldest members, he and Jean should stay on the team to continue Charles Xavier's work, Jean wants them to leave the team to care for the baby that's due. After that, we see Roberto waking up and seeing Beast analyzing the power-inhibiting collar he was wearing. Then we see Jubilee. Later, we see Scott and Jean asking Dr. Cooper, who is part of the UN, how those extremist mercenaries got Sentinel parts since the UN destroyed all of them. She mentions that Bolivar Trask has been missing since attempting an attack on President Kelly, and that a master mold was needed to build Sentinels, the last of which was destroyed by the X-Men years ago. Scott doesn't fully trust Dr. Cooper and asks her to investigate Trask. She requests his trust, citing her friendship with Charles Xavier, which led her to insist that the UN work with the X-Men. Next, we have the scene of the mutants playing basketball at the mansion's court, where Jubilee mentions that Wolverine scared Roberto, prompting him to leave the mansion. Scott orders them to go after him, as the mercenaries were hired to kidnap Roberto, and it's highly likely they will try again, leading the X-Men to discover the source of the Sentinel technology they are using. While Wolverine, Jubilee, Morph, Gambit, and Rogue go to a club to find Roberto, Cyclops and Storm go to interrogate Henry Peter Garrich, responsible for Xavier's death. Storm mentions that after Garrich attacked the Professor, humanity began to accept the X-Men more. Garrich states that despite mutant fashion shows, it's all a facade, as the more space mutants gain, the more space humans lose. Cyclops offers a reduced sentence if he cooperates, but he refuses, so Jean Grey, using the mansion's Cerebro, invades Garrich's mind to gather information about Trask. Jean discovers that Trask is in a hideout in the Sahara Desert, leading the X-Men to confront him. Near the location, the mutants' ship is attacked, but they survive and face Trask, who already knew they were coming. Trask activates the new Master Mold, and the Sentinels begin to attack the X-Men, showcasing great mutant action scenes of them defeating and apprehending Trask. Returning to the mansion, Roberto decides not to join the team and bids Jubilee farewell. We see the X-Men playing basketball again until the invasion alert is triggered. The episode ends with the revelation. Magneto is the invader, holding Xavier's will, which states that everything is left to Magneto, now placing the X-Men under his command. In Episode 2, the focus shifts to Magneto. The X-Men are suspicious and confused as to why Xavier left everything in Magneto's hands. At the beginning of the second episode, we see Magneto saving people at an amusement park and later rescuing the Morlocks in the sewers, who were under attack by extremists. Back at the mansion, Magneto informs the X-Men that he saved the Morlocks and sent them to Genosha for a better life, questioning why Xavier and the X-Men never attempted to help them out of the sewers. Shortly after, authorities arrive at the Xavier mansion to take Magneto to trial for his crimes against humanity. In an attempt to honor Xavier's wishes, Magneto agrees to stand trial. At the UN, Magneto presents his defense, arguing that while he sought justice for mutant crimes, humans now seek retribution for his actions. The X-Men are present at the trial, except for Wolverine, who remains at the mansion with Jean, who is about to give birth. Outside the UN, we see extremists protesting against mutants, even demanding their extermination, leading to violent protests and an attack on Congress to kill Magneto. During these events, Logan rushes Jean to the hospital as she goes into labor. The baby, named Nathan Summers, is Cable. During the UN invasion, Storm takes a bullet saving Magneto, causing her to lose her powers due to the same technology used in the power inhibitor collars. With this, Magneto instills fear, rather than eliminating, playing by human law's rules, which leads to his pardon and Genosha, becoming one of the UN-recognized nations. This episode also includes a romantic moment between Rogue and Magneto. Even though she is currently with Gambit, they had a past relationship, as seen in the comics. After losing her powers, Storm decides to leave the X-Men, and the episode twists with the appearance of a second Jean Grey at the mansion's door. The Jean with the X-Men and Nathan is Madeline Pryor, a Jean Grey clone created by Mr. Sinister, one of the X-Men's major villains and a super geneticist. A plot also seen in the comics where Scott unknowingly had a child with Jean's clone after her death, now faced with Jean's return. These episodes were fantastic, especially the depiction of Cyclops as a true leader. We finally see a Cyclops true to the comics, a leader Magneto respects. Xavier is presumed dead, but there are hints he may still be alive, as he was taken to the Shi'ar Empire at the classic series end. I must mention the animation quality. It's incredible, with great fluidity. Interestingly, the director of this new series mentioned that the animation was hand-drawn, aiming to recreate an effect of something released over 30 years ago, while integrating modern technological resources seamlessly. There's nothing to complain about with the animation and action scenes. Only 2 episodes have been released so far, and there's much to discuss. I will provide an analysis of each episode, and count on your presence here to keep you informed of everything happening in X-Men 97. Now I want to know your opinion. Have you watched the first 2 episodes? Did you enjoy them? Leave your comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything about X-Men 97. Thank you very much, and see you next time.